Hello, my name is Courtney Johnson, Adult Education Coordinator for Helms at Temple. This is a recap of Writing Club and a presentation on context clues. Thank you for joining me. Context clues help us understand difficult words or phrases based on the meanings of the words around it. Context clues are hints in the writing that help us figure out what a word could possibly mean. There are several ways we can use context clues to figure out a word. These ways are description clue, example clue, or synonym and antonym clue. When you see a description clue, the word may be defined or you may be given an explanation of the word. Sometimes commas or dashes will help you to define the word. For example, the dudeen, a word we don't know, a short stem clay pipe is found in Irish folk tales. As we can see here, we have dashes around the portion of the sentence, a short stem clay pipe. This lets us know what dudeen means. Here's another example. The swamp fox got his nickname because he was elusive. This is the word we need to define. Hard to pin down and catch. We can see also from these dashes here that elusive must mean hard to pin down and catch. When we see a difficult word, we may be able to understand what it means by looking at the examples given for the word. We will usually see words like such as or for example. Let's take a look at this one here. Piscatorial creatures such as flounder, salmon, or bream live in the coldest parts of the ocean. What does piscatorial mean? Based on our example that we see here, such as flounder, salmon, or bream, we can use context clues to determine that piscatorial most likely means a type of fish or an ocean dweller. Here's another example. In the course of man's evolution, certain organs have atrophied. The appendix, for example, has wasted away from disuse. Here we see in our second sentence, we get the example. This is from the phrase, for example. It has wasted away from disuse. Atrophy most likely means no longer useful, no longer needed, and or weak. Sometimes we can figure out the meaning of a word from clues that use words that are similar, synonyms, or different, which are antonyms, from the word in question. When we see antonym clues, this may include the words however or but. First, let's take a look at synonym clues. This sentence says, the mountain pass was a tortuous road, winding and twisting like a snake around the trees of the mountain side. What could torturous mean? Our synonym clues here are winding and twisting. We also have a simile here that the road was winding and twisting like a snake. This is another synonym clue that helps us understand what the word tortuous means. Let's take a look at an antonym clue. This sentence says, the children were as different as night and day. He was a lively conversationalist, but she was reserved and taciturn. Our word in question here is taciturn. What is our antonym clue? We see the word but here in our second sentence. By comparing the children to day and night, we also know that they will be two different types of people. If one of the children is lively, the other one is reserved, taciturn could possibly mean that she is not talkative, she's shy, also she's quiet. Here, we can see that using context clues and substituting one word means that we don't necessarily have to pick a difficult word to substitute. If the word quiet works here in the context of this sentence, Feel free to use a substitute word that makes sense to you. You ready for some more practice? Let's take a look at these sentences and figure out what this word can most likely mean. Fluoroscopy, examination with the fluoroscope, has become a common practice. Fluoroscopy most likely means examination with a fluoroscope. We can see this because there are commas around the explanation of the clue. Number two, when the light brightens, the pupils of the eyes contract. However, when it grows darker, they dilate. Do we see an antonym clue here? We do. The word, however, lets us know that we are comparing the word contract and dilate. Based on the context of this sentence, dilate most likely means to get bigger. Number three, celestial bodies, including the sun, moon, and stars, have fascinated man throughout the centuries. Celestial most likely means heavenly bodies or planets. We can tell this because we are given examples: the sun, the moon, and the stars. Based on this context, we can figure out what celestial means. Are you ready for one more practice? Let's try a paragraph. We all agree that buying Go Green stock at a time when so many environmental startups were failing was an audacious move on Barry's part. It had no established history and dubious financial backing, but when its value shot through the roof and made Barry rich, we had to agree with the old proverb and admit that fortune does in fact favor the bold. What could audacious mean? Taking a look at this paragraph, we see many of the startups were failing. So audacious must mean that Barry's move was a bold one. He's trying to do something different by establishing in a stock that most people think is going to fail. What do we think dubious could mean? If we see that the stock has no established history, that most likely means, based on the mood of this sentence, that it does not have a lot of financial backing. When you start a startup, most likely they don't have a lot of money, which most likely means dubious is lacking or not a good thing. It's very interesting in this paragraph because we see that the mood changes towards the end, because now we're admitting that even though this was a bold move, it did in fact pay off for Barry. This is how we can use context clues to understand these difficult words. As always, thank you so much for joining me for this writing club recap. If you're interested in more context clues work, please reach out to your coordinator who can provide you with extra practice for you to complete. Make sure to check out the Helms Academy YouTube page for more writing club and math roundtable recaps. Thank you so much and take care.